Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So as we promised, we start to make a C# application. Previously we made a database, and right now we make a C# project. To do that, we open up the Visual Studio and create a new project. Of course, it's up to you to use any kind of application, but right now I am trying to use a Windows application. So Windows Forms, I want to use Forms app. I think this one is Windows Forms app. That's it. And it is using C#. Next. Where I store that one, I store it in E. I don't have that much size in my partition. And store it in project. I'll make a new folder and name it C#. Inside here, I select that folder. And the project name should be SQL Connection. Okay, that's good. SQL Connection. I use this framework. It's up to you to use any framework, but remember that if you use this one, let's say for example, then you should at least have that version installed in the client side. This application will become an exe file that execute on any computer, but not just any computer, the computer with the .NET framework already installed on it. So you should first go to that computer and that PC and install .NET framework. So the version of .NET framework counts. So if you install this one or this one, this two version on any client PC, this application, the future of this application will work there. So you don't have to be concerned about it. But if you install the .NET Framework 4 on the client server, this application will not work. So I make this .NET Framework 4 because this .NET Framework 4 is commonly used among the client PCs, and there's not that much updates for the .NET Framework for what we are discussing. Of course, there's a lot of updates, but what we are discussing is remaining the same. SQL connection is remaining the same. I think way back in .NET 2, this scenario have already been taken care of, so Microsoft will not make that much update in that aspect. Okay, we'll say create this project for us. Right now Visual Studio will create the project and the necessary files for us to make the exe file. As you can see, this screen will show up. This screen have a form. If you don't familiar with the environment of Visual Studio, you can see that the Visual Studio consists of this Solution Explorer. This windows can be organized as much as you like. I think in Visual Studio we have the same thing. I mean the Management Studio. Okay. And here's the tools. This tools is what we are using for our components, like button, text, filters, things like that. Okay. And this one is the property. So if you want to change the property of some control, we absolutely need the properties window. And okay, it shows up all the necessary tools. And this one is the error list, as you can see. If you have an error in our syntax, you will see the reminder here. And this one is the data source. For this project, we need almost all of this. We save the SQL connection, but to do that, there's so many ways to communicate with the SQL Server. One of it is through SQL command, and that's what we are discussing right now. Using an SQL command is just a pure way of connecting with the SQL Server, but Microsoft made something else for us for managing our data. It's called data sets. We'll come to that in next lecture, inshallah. But right now we are discussing for the SQL connection with the SQL command. And there's other ways, of course. There's entity framework. You can absolutely use it. There's other third-party tools that use the same thing. For the big project, I recommend entity framework, but for the small one and even the medium ones, the SQL connection with the data set is enough. So let's make something right now. We have this form. If you want to change any property of that form, you can see that there's a property window right now. Let's say, for example, I want to change the text of the form to SQL connection example. And you can change the size, right to left, left to right, show icon, everything is in here. If you want to know so much about it, of course you can use it and use an internet search for it, Google for everything if you have any question about it. I'm not going that deep to that property window because it needs a lot of time, and save my form. So I came to toolbox and go to the command control. Right now I just want a button, and one text box is enough. I just want to test something. Text box, text box. That's it. Okay. I came to my Visual Studio. In here we have a product, that's customer, this one. This one is customer ID. Okay, I close everything. Came to product. And say edit top 20 rows and add one product here. Product price became, let's say, $100. Okay. And expiration date will became So right now we have only one record. I want to read that record inside my SQL server here. After I click this button, let's say for example, I came here, I say this text is not true, is correct. Okay. And to do that, we can double click on the connect button, or you can simply go to the events here and say click and double click here. This is the same thing. After that, we will go directly to the forms 1.cs inside the coding. Okay. Note that says private void button underscore click object sender and even RC. This is the syntax that Visual Studio IDE make for us ready to use this function when this event is triggered. So whenever the click event is triggered, this function will fire. This function is stored here. That's the function. Okay. It's not relevant, I think. Okay. To do an SQL connection, we use SQL connection. As you can see, that's the SQL connection. The IDE will write for us. Okay, I say, yeah, I want that. But this way of doing it requires you for making SQL connection first thing, then SQL reader, then SQL command. So all of this is really will make you confused, and the better way to do that is just say I want an SQL command. Okay. Of course, the documentation for this subject is so much in the internet. You can go to the .NET Params, that's the spell .NET Params, okay? And there is a documentation about it. That is the way of using SQL command. SQL command, okay, copy. Yeah, I forget one M. Okay, SQL command, let's see. SQL CD. IDE will help you. I try to make that for you. Always use the IDE's help. You see, it detects that the SQL command is using system data.sql client. So click on that. This will get resolved. Look, automatically add this library to our coding. Okay. And here, if I say SQL CMD, what do you have? When we say dot, it brings up all the methods and all the properties of that object. I mean that object which is right now an SQL command object. Okay, so SQL command object have that many methods and properties. One of this is set command text. The command text, as you can see, is a string of SQL command text get answer. That get answer means that this property. As you can see, if it's have a properties icon, and this box thing is the cube ones, is the methods. So this lighting bolts are means that this an event. Okay. I need command text. What else I need? I need a connection. So I first have to connect, and then I want this command, and then I want this command to be executed. Okay. First thing, I use the connection. Okay. And connection is equals what? Equals an SQL connection, of course. But as you can see, this say that SQL connection, SQL command, dot connect. So we need an SQL connection. You see, to make a connection, we need an SQL connection. So I say equals to an SQL connection SQL code. Let's say SQL code 1M. Okay. The ID will sometimes mess things up for you, so remember that. Okay? SQL con. This SQL con is not remove SQL connection to SQL. No, that's not what we need. Okay. As you can see, this SQL con is not defined. If you came here, it says generate property field. Yeah, I want that. And generate a field for form1.sql con. It make a private SQL connection, SQL con. Okay. Oh, what's this? I don't. SQL CMD, SQL CMD. I use that. Yeah. Use of an assignment. Oh, sorry, I didn't assign it. Yeah, that's really. Yeah, I should assign the value for SQL command, of course. SQL CMD equals new SQL command. As you can see, when you make an SQL command, there's four other node functions. The first one is an empty one. The second one is have its own command. So you just say it and set the commands right away. I don't use that for the time being. I'm using something else. The first one I use it right now, but you can absolutely use that one or even that one. It needs the command text and the connection right away. So you are free to use any one of this. Okay. I am using the first one. Okay. I don't add any parameter to that SQL command. So right now this object don't have any connection and don't have any command because this too is empty. I don't add it any parameter or arguments over. So yeah, I added the connection with this parameter, but as you can see, the SQL connection is just defined and it needs to occupy with something, of course. To do that, I came here for this. Okay. I came here, I see SQL connection, SQL connection. This one is it. Okay, dot connection string. Connection string. Property is connection string. Yeah, that's it. The connection string equals to this connection string. Semicolon. This connection string is not a magic word. If you are very confused with that, we came up with it in next lectures, inshallah. But right now I use a ready made connection string. So okay, so to get that text of connection string, it's not really that difficult. We'll came up with that in the next lessons, of course, inshallah. But right now I just grabbed that out of my project, so it will be the data source first, and the data source is equals what? Equals, let's say, came here and make a connection to my database. When you first open the SQL Server, this window will came, as you can see. It asks you the server name. So this server name is the data source. Okay, let's say copy that one and came to my Visual Studio. The data source will become that. Okay, and initial catalog is, as you can see, it is say that this slash have a problem. So to do that, I just say at the first at I add an at to the double quotation. This will take care of the slashes. And then I came here, as you can see, this and the password. My database name, this one cells DB will be an initial catalog. So I copy that and came to the initial catalog is this word. Okay, cells DB. Persistent security goes through and let all of this remain the same. Okay, password is password. That's it. Okay, and this is the connection syntax for that. For now, I try to execute a command, a real easy one. Okay, so I say SQL cmd dot command text command text equals what? Equals select right now it's like you go to SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, you make a new query and you want to execute that query. So here this syntax is a query string. Okay, select a string from tbl underscore, I think so, dot I don't know how to spell that one. Studio, select products, copy it, here, paste it. Yeah, the first capsule was capsule. This one was capsule. Select the structs from tbl underscore products. That's it. All that's remain is an execution for this command. To do that, we have an SQL reader. As you can see, it says SQL reader. By the way, you have to use using for that. So I say copy that. Okay, it will be the same. I don't need to type it again. Control V. Let's discuss what is really in there. It says using SQL data reader. That is make a reader for us to make, let's say, we'll make a loop, okay, to read record by record from this query, okay. This query is, I have to add it here, SQL CMD dot execute reader. As you can see, dot execute reader is a method. It says that sends the SQL command dot command text to the SQL command connection and build an SQL data reader. What's mean by that? This method, SQL execute reader, will return a bunch of objects. Each objects are consist of one record. It brings it out of the database. How do it accomplish that? It accomplished that through this text here, which is the query, as you can see, and this text here, which is a connection string. This connection string will connect to the database, and after we connect to the database, we execute this command, this command by this method, okay? After that, I say while the reader.read means that there is still a row, okay? Go to do that, okay? While there's a read, so while the read is not false, if it is true, when it's true, it says if there are more rows, then the read is true. If there is no other rows, so it will become false. So I say while this is true, it means while reader.read is true, go and do that. What will this do? This will do a count for each field, okay? This is 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have 3 records. So 4 records, I mean, but the index of them 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? So it begins from I equals 0 and to 4, not 4, to 3, because it's less than 4, okay? And I plus plus. And after that, it says console.writeLine reader.get value of I, okay? I don't change that right now. I just want to see what will happen if we execute this command. It's not going to execute it, of course, but why it's not executed, and you'll came to that. Let's run that. As you can see, we have the form opened up for us, and all this code is in this button. So if I click that, it throws an exception. Why? It says that the object reference is not set to an instance of an object. This means that we have a problem with the connection string, let's say. But it is not the case. Why? I stop the application for now, and came here. I say the SQL connection is that, and the SQL command is that, okay? But I have to do one more thing. I should say SQL connection dot open, because I'm trying to communicate with the SQL server. So first thing, I should open the connection. So that means after I do everything, I should where's that one? So after I execute everything, that's the end of property. At the end of my my method, I should say SQL con dot close. So as you can see here, connection dot open uses the connection dot open. I forget to use a new SQL connection, by the way. I just said that you can, I totally forget that. You can see that in C# when you define a property, you should say private data type and the property name, and after that you should initialize the first one. As you can see, we have the problem with the SQL command. I define this equals a new SQL command. This will make an object for this SQL command. But right now I didn't make any object for SQL connection. I just defined it that the SQL connection is SQL connection. And equals what? Equals new SQL connection. By the way, that's the problem. I should first solve this one. Equals new SQL connection. It requires the string of connection. I just added that for. Why cannot implement convert types string SQL connection to string? Yeah, that's right. Not connection string. I say SQL con equals new SQL connection. What I have done is first I defined the SQL connection. That's it, and with the definition of that, I added the SQL connection to it right away. Okay, as you can see, SQL connection string, connection string. I added the connection string with the initialization. Okay, right away in one syntax. Okay, and after that I should say SQL connection dot open. Okay, Control X. Let's not add SQL connection. Let's see what will happen if we try to execute that one more time. I say connect. It throws another exception. It's not the same. It says the keyword not supported integrated security. Integrated security is not. I don't know what this means by that, but maybe integrated, I think, yeah, integrated, not integrated. The I is maybe removed. Yeah, Control S. I should stop it and save that and start it one more time. And connect. Yeah, this time don't have any problem with the SQL connection, but as you can see, it have a problem with it. Sorry, with execute reader. It have a problem with the execute reader. Says requires an open and available connection. That's what I mean by that. So I just say Control V, but first I should stop the application. I say before you do this, execute this command, you should execute this command, which is open the SQL connection for us. Okay. And after you open the connection, go read that database. Okay. Let's see what will happen this time. Incorrect syntax near asterisk. Why? Selected asterisk from TBL products. Selected. Select in my space. I should fix that. Selected asterisk from, yeah. So let's say connect. The output window will show, by the way, console.writeLine will show everything in the output window. I should go to view and output window, yeah, that's it. That's the output window. As you can see, it says 100, and this is the record, isn't it? 100. So the command executed successfully, and of course, if you want to occupy this text field, you might know what will you do right now. We say that for each of these values, okay, I do the for loop and go field by field, okay, and get that value and read it, okay, and after that we set console.writeLine to make a new line and came to the second one. Okay. To do that, we just say let's say I want the product price, which is 0, 1, 2. Okay, 2. I came here. I say if I equals 2, say I don't want to console this one out. I want to say the text box. I don't remember text box 1. Okay, text box 1. I don't rename it, by the way. You can rename it to something familiar for you. Text box 1 dot text equals what? Equals reader dot get value, isn't it? Reader dot get value get value of what? Of I. Simple. By the way, it is an object, so it requires you to make it not string. Okay. After that, we make after we make a connection, we should give that value and store it inside the text box window.txt. I add an else part here, else. So if I equals 1, if equals 2, we should retrieve that value to the text box from the text. Otherwise, we just say console dot write line to the output window. Okay, save all and start running. Connect. As you can see, we get the 100 value out here, and the output will not shows up 100 value, so it was executed as we expected. I think that's all for this lecture. In the other lectures, we will talk about updating and deleting and stuff like that. Okay, the whole code of operation. We'll discuss everything in detail, inshallah.